Yeah, I agree. I don't think they're getting that this is moving along anywhere near as smoothly as they wanted. First of all, for the foundation that was resting on global warming, the fact that the Earth is cooling has damaged the credibility of the globalist movement as a whole. The same thing with attempting to sell a global health authority on the basis of the swine flu. That's not coming out as predicted. And selling more globalism to fix the economy that was already destroyed by globalism, that's a tough sell. I don't think they can make it. I think they may actually just bring down all of civilization in a ruin trying to bring about this new world order.
You're right. And they have corrupt bureaucrats running the system, and so they're having a lot of problems. Stay there, Mike. We'll talk about government drug dealing. We've got an abbreviated show today with Mike, but he'll be back up with us in the near future. Mike, in closing in this short segment, I want to get into government drug dealing in Afghanistan and Colombia. But first, Al Gore, again, admittedly to make the profits from all of this. This is racketeering. I mean, he should get in trouble for this. We need to really start calling them out as the criminals they are.
We absolutely need to do that. What most people don't understand is when Al Gore set up this cap and credit CO2 tax scheme, it was he got help from Ken Lay from Enron. In other words, Al Gore is doing to us with carbon dioxide what Enron did to California with electricity. They're not actually doing anything that's useful. They're simply setting up a system that siphons money off and makes them very, very, very rich. Yes, it's a crime. It's a scam. And as long as we, the people, just sit there and go along with it, you know, there has to be a breaking point at some time. I mean, I've got friends who are calling me asking to borrow money to make their rent. I'm having to tell them, no, we're just barely making our rent here. At some point, when enough people have been made homeless and enough businesses have been shut down, the American people have got to get angry. There really is no other,
well, that's what Northcom's for, and we now know this was all premeditated and planned. Goldman Sachs engineering it with the Federal Reserve to collapse the economy. That's McClatchy Newspapers. We got the reporter coming on later. But in closing here, what about the treaty to build giant bases in Colombia to attack Venezuela? The U.S. forces only spray the coca plantations that the FARC control. Our government's growing the cocaine. Afghanistan, it's up 10, 12, 13-fold what it was a decade ago, opium. They admit in the news that the CIA runs the drugs with the head drug dealer. Meanwhile, the police are still SWAT teaming people for using the drugs the government ships in. What about, I mean, it's just all of this stuff's coming to the surface, but no one gets in trouble.
Well, it's absolutely true. I mean, basically, the war on drugs is simply a war on the competition's drugs. And they want to make sure it's a monopoly that is controlled by the American drug lord families, including the Bushes and the Clintons. And that's what it's really all about. When the Taliban was in control of Afghanistan, there was no opium growing. The U.S. comes in, it's bumper crops. We've got cheap, potent heroin flooding into the United States. It's Vietnam all over again. Young people are dying from overdoses, and our government is making the money from it. That's why all these anti-drug commercials you see on TV are lame. They don't work. They're designed to make it look like the government cares, but they're designed to utterly fail to convince anybody to stay away from drugs.
Well, look at all the pro-drug messages in Hollywood movies where it's so fun. We know that's government propaganda placement, and it's on record. Every cop I talk to, whether I'm in L.A. or New York or Austin, I talk to cops when I see them at restaurants, and I go, don't you guys know most of the money is laundered from drugs, is laundered in U.S. banks, and that we only go after the competition? They go, yeah, we know that. But then they get promoted when they bust some teenager with it. By making the drugs illegal, it jacks up the prices, brings more drugs in, bad quality drugs. We know under Prohibition, alcoholism tripled. That's admitted, mainline history. We know it energized the mob. The criminals made drugs illegal because they wanted to jack up the price.
That's exactly right. They call it the politics of contraband. And, I mean, the prohibition, the amount of money that came in from prohibition to the criminals completely reshaped American politics. The whole Kennedy dynasty is founded on illegal alcohol money. The Skull and Bones fraternity at Yale University was funded with opium money. It's all about drugs and control of the drugs. Hollywood always says the drug lords are down in South America. No, the drug lords are right here in the United States of America, sitting in taxpayer-funded offices.
And they have the U.S. military. If you don't pay your cut or launder your money with them, and I've talked to high-level military DEA people that track the flights, they're told, leave those 10 flights alone, go after those 2. Every time they bust the CIA with drugs in the U.S., they're told, let them go. I've had Terry Reid and other high-level CIA people on the show about Mina seeing Bill Clinton and Oliver North with the cocaine. And then they call them big patriot heroes.
Yeah, it is really absurd. I mean, all the excesses that we were told were happening down in South America, they happen times 10 here in the United States. It is that completely out of control. And now the druggies, they want to buy themselves an entire planet because the drug lords and the drug money and the banks are all tied in together. If the drug money went away, most American banks would collapse.
And let's explain this. They can leverage on average 8 to 10 times. So $500 billion in opium a year out of Afghanistan, that's $5 trillion leverage. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. When Michael Mann was producing the original Miami Vice TV series, in the 3rd season, he started taking some chances, and he did an episode in which the good guys are called off a drug bust because if they busted this particular drug dealer, it would have destroyed a couple of the big banks in Florida. And they were told, you got to stay away from this one. We're sorry. It's just that big and that powerful. The money is too powerful to fight. And it's all about the money. And it's all counterfeit money. We have been taught to worship the dollar as a new religion. And there's nothing behind it. It's just a funny printed piece of paper. Now they're trying to come up with another one, the carbon credit. That, too, is just a funny printed piece of paper.
And we've been taught to worship Al Gore. Great job, Mike. Talk to you again soon.